How's it going, fam? Welcome back to Erica's EDC, and today we are going to sharpen one of my favorite knives ever, the Case Sodbuster Jr. in chrome vanadium steel with chestnut bone. This one is a beauty, and I've been using it a lot. I'm sure you guys can kind of see that patina it's been picking up. And it could use a fresh edge because I've never actually put my own edge on this one. I ran the factory edge, which we all know the Case edges are just... they're pretty rough. So I used it. It needs to be worked on, it feels like. So we're going to do that today. And I'm going to show you what I'm going to use for this traditional knife because we've never sharpened one on the channel before, which is crazy. But quick disclaimer before we start. When I used to use these as a kid, and when, like, my dad and stuff used to sharpen knives, they would use, like, the Arkansas stones or, like, a ceramic honing rod. And I'm just not going to recommend using anything like that because, I'm going to be honest, a lot of the old-timers, the knives that they considered sharp this day and age would be, like, an embarrassment, right? So, like, back in the day, at least when I was growing up, my dad always was like, you'll know when the knife is sharp when you feel it like this, and it feels nice and toothy and bitey, and that's when you know it's razor sharp. And now that I know more about sharpening, those were terrible edges that would probably, very roughly cut through paper. And yes, they're going to grab material like hay bale twine and feed bags and stuff, but in the grand scheme of things, are they actually that sharp? Not really. So I don't recommend using the older tactics that our grandfathers used to kind of like sharpen or hone their edges, like ceramic rods. I don't recommend them. They are not going to apex your knife correctly. They're not really going to do anything correctly. This is a very quick and easy way to like put bite back on your edge, but it's not really real life sharpening. So that's why we're not using this. I just wanted to give you guys a heads up. That is a very mediocre way of like touching up your blade. So I'm going to lower you guys down and we're going to look at the first stone that we're using today, which is one of my favorites. This is going to be a 600 grit DMT diamond stone. So as you can see, it is the red one. This is a 600 grit fine stone, and you can order both the stand and the stone at sharpeningsupplies.com. I have no affiliation with them, but that's just where I order my stuff from because they have the greatest prices, I should say. Fast shipping, tons of options. I've always had luck with sharpeningsupplies.com. So this is a general use stone. This is the one that I recommend if you just need like a one and done DMT stone. I love this. So we're going to start with this stone today. And then we're just probably going to finish off on a 1000 grit Naniwa and call it a day because this is not a knife that I'm going to be relying on for excessive amounts of cardboard cutting. This isn't going to be doing anything crazy. This is really just a general use knife, and I really mostly use it for food prep. So I don't need it to be having the craziest edge retention in the world. Also, I do ride it in this slip from Richter Knives. Please check him out. He makes the best leather slips for traditional knives. You can also use them for Swiss Army knives, but this is what it runs in. Okay? All right. We're going to put a little bit of water on this, guys. You do not have to do that, but I like to. I just feel that it reduces the friction sliding across the top of the stone. The diamonds are not going to absorb water like a water stone, like my traditional Naniwa stones. So I'm only going to let this set on here for 30 seconds, I would figure. And like I said, this is not really necessary, but it does just help move your blade back and forth across the surface with more ease, okay? Also, don't use honing oil. That's another thing that our grandfathers used to use. You can use that with Arkansas stones, but with DMT stones, you don't want to be putting honing oil on this. The only thing I suggest is plain water or very mildly soapy water. And I put just like a couple drops of Dr. Bronner's in there, and that's it. So no honing oil. Don't overload this with anything. You really want the diamonds to just do the work, okay? So let's get started. As always, we're going to start on one side, build up a burr, flip it over, knock the burr off, burr up the other side, and then apex. Right? That's what we always do. So we're just going to gently back and forth start creating a burr. And I am just using my index finger really as a guiding tool here. It's not applying pressure or anything, it's literally just to guide the blade. Also, I do want to mention that this particular sod buster has an issue that a lot of case sod busters have, which is the rounded tip. I don't know if it's going to focus. Come on. So you can kind of see that the tip of the knife is a little bit rounded, and some people don't like that, and I will say that using a diamond stone, you can fix that and make it a little pointier. So maybe we'll try to do that in this video, okay? We'll just kind of try to fix that and make it a little more pointy because it got really rounded off. This also should not take very long at all because this steel is not a super steel. It is just a plain old school carbon steel. So we're just gonna check our progress. We already have a burr built up, which is something I expected to come up pretty quick, but I want to make sure that my scratch pattern on my edge is all uniform, and I do want to work on that kind of blunt tip a little bit, so we can give that just a little extra attention. And try to bring that, I'm just trying to bring that edge all the way up because before it kind of stopped and the edge didn't come to the very tip of the knife. So I'm just basically grinding material off of the very end so that the edge comes up to the spine. Okay? Yeah, that looks good. Alright, so we're just going to try to blend that whole scratch pattern, make it nice and even. We do not want to move on and go further if we haven't completed this first step. The burr feels very nice though, I will say. Like this burr came up super quick. But I also want to mention this steel does not feel soft, guys. A lot of people think that traditional knives are in like really soft steel that is treated super low and that it's just not going to hold an edge. And I feel that a lot of people have tried traditional knives with the factory edges and that's why they were disappointed. And then they just never went back. But if you put your own edge on these guys, you can make a very useful tool. You just have to get through that burnt factory edge. But this steel, I'm serious, it feels very hard on these stones. Like I'm actually applying a bit of pressure with this hand because this steel, it feels like it was very well done. And that's why people that actually know about case knives and know about chrome vanadium steel. That's why they are obsessed with it, because they've put the time in to realize that it actually has something to offer. But unless you put the time in to get to know it and to work through that burnt factory edge, you're just not going to experience. So we're about to move on to the other side. And I just want to show you what we've kind of created here. So we have a burr built up on the entire edge, which you're not going to be able to see with the naked eye. I don't have a microscope, but if we flip the knife over to the opposite side that we have not worked on, if I go like this, I can feel a burr, and you may even be able to hear it. It's so strong, you may be able to hear it. So I'm going to put it up to the microphone. Just give me 1 second. I don't know if you could hear that, but my skin is catching on this burr. It's very strong. So we have a burr throughout the whole thing, which is what we want, and oh my goodness, you can see it. Oh wow, that's crazy. Okay, you can actually see that burr built up on the edge of the knife. That's wild. I thought you would have to have a microscope, but that's how big this burr is. It goes all the way. That hairline of silver, that's the burr, guys. Really, really strong this time, okay? So that's awesome, and it's throughout the entire edge, as you can see. So that's what we want, but we also wanted to make sure that our scratch pattern was uniform. And it is. So we've removed that factory edge. You can tell there's no patina from the prior use. So we've removed all of that factory steel that was patinaed and used, and now we have a nice fresh edge to work with fresh material, okay? That's exactly what we wanted. So this side is done for now. We're going to flip over and we're going to work our other side, which I will use my left hand for because I'm ambidextrous. If you are not, then at this point you're going to be working away from yourself like this, but that's very hard for me. I have to use both of my hands in sharpening. So we're going to gently knock off that burr real quick, and then we're going to work on this other side. But I want to gently knock this off with like a few stropping motions because I don't want to break it off, especially because that's such a large burr. I really don't want to break that. I just want to gently knock it down and really start to apex this edge. And I'm not applying any pressure right now. I'm just using the weight of the knife and then using my fingers to guide it. There's still a burr there that I can feel. Sorry for the dogs jingling. I just really want to make sure we get that off because that was a very large burr. There we go. Okay, that's better. So now we're going to work on this side and do the same exact thing that we just did. And I'm also going to try to fix that tip a little bit, bring that edge up to the very front of the knife. You always want to check your progress as you go. You don't want to like get in the zone and think you're doing the right thing and then figure out that your angle was off or you got wonky at one point. It's really important to just keep checking your edge. Oh, this looks gorgeous. Definitely have a burr building up. It's very strong at the front, but that's because I worked on that tip a bit. So I just want to kind of blend that and make sure that the burr is as strong throughout the rest of the knife. Yeah, that is just about ready. Also, guys, let me know down in the comments what you're carrying today, how your weekend was, what you're up to, how your day went, all that good stuff. You know, I love hearing about how you guys are doing during these videos, because there's not a ton of talking I can do. So let me know what's in the pockets, how's life. This is looking mighty fine. Man, this is done really well, because right here, right in this section here, I still need the burr to be a little stronger. Case does do a good job on their chrome vanadium. I will give them that. Like, they have a lot of quality control issues, but they've been doing steel for so long, I think that they've kind of got their recipe locked in for the CV. Granted, now they're doing the 1095, but I've always enjoyed their CV steel. Yeah, that's feeling a little better. I'm just going to blend it a little bit more. Yeah, that feels good. All right. So, one thing I just want to mention is I'm following the factory bevels, okay? So, up front, it was a little thicker because they just do a quick swipe on each side, and that's about it. At some point when I have more time, I want to make it a little more even, because when I show you, you're going to notice that down here it's a little thinner and then it gets thicker up here. So at some point I want to fix that, but right now we're just following the factory bevel. Come on, I need some light to show this thing. Come on. Where's the light? Where's the light? Okay, can you guys kind of see? Okay, so we have a fresh edge. Hopefully you can see the light reflecting off of it. We have a brand new scratch pattern, and all of the old material is gone. And we have a burr on the other side. So what are we going to do? We're going to gently knock it off. We also have a bunch of metal residue right here, so I'm just going to quickly get some of that off. And let's just put a little more water on this. All right, so we're going to gently knock off the burr on this side, and then we're going to do our kind of back and forth fang before we move on to our 1000 grit. And this should perform much better than it was before, because boy was that a rough factory edge. And I just kind of ran it until it dulled, because why not, right? I mean, I was mostly just cutting food, so it didn't need to be anything crazy. Man, that is a gnarly burr. Okay, so now we're just going to do some back and forth jazz and apex this little sucker. And we shouldn't have to do too many of these at all. Gonna feel and make sure we've knocked off our burr all the way on each side. There's definitely still one on this side, so let me try to knock that off real quick. I'm actually really enjoying this process. I don't know why people, like, crap on traditional knives so much, or so quickly, I should say. Like, I don't know. I feel like people should just give them a chance. They're so fun to use. It's so nostalgic. And I've always been into, like, vintage, simplicity, rustic stuff. Like, I just love the old school vibe. Everything's so fast-paced these days. This forces you to slow down. Pay attention. Alright, so let's, just for the heck of it, let's see what we're at with the 600 grit. It's a, this is probably going to be pretty toothy because it's just a 600. We did no honing, no stropping, no nothing, but let's just see where we're at in comparison to what we had before, which was no edge at all. Okay, so it's a little bit rough, but that's okay. We can dial that in with our 1000 grit, but this is a good working edge. Oh, where are we? I'm trying to stay in frame here. It's always so hard because I'm like crouching down, looking at myself, looking at a camera. So, as you can see, this is just like thin magazine paper. We can clean slice through it. It's the tiniest bit rough because it was only a 600 grit, but we have an edge that we can work with. We have an edge that we can really dial in, and it should get much cleaner once we go to this 1000 grit, okay? So let's swap this out. We in frame? Sir, are we in frame? Alright. So now, we're taking out the big boy, guys. The big mama. Let's move this up. And that. Okay. Where are you guys? Where am I? What in the... What in tarnation? Sorry, we're like half off the fucking screen and I have no room, so you guys will just have to deal with it. Okay. Let's bring this out. So this has been soaking for its entire life. So it is good to go. I'm just cleaning it off a little bit. But we got this beautiful 1000 grit Naniwa Japanese Water Stone. This is one of my favorites. This is just a beautiful stone. This thing has been soaking, so it is good to go. You cannot use these unless you soak them. They are water stones, okay? Alright, now, I am not going to hyper-focus on building up a burr all over again. I'm really, with this stone and this particular knife today, I'm just kind of honing it in. I don't really care to do the whole burr thing all over again. I'm just refining that edge because it's a little bit catchy on that magazine paper, and I just want to very gently not polish it, but just hone it. That's all we're doing, is just making it a little softer. So we're being very gentle. These Naniwa stones are extremely fragile. You can't be digging into them and shit. You gotta be real careful with these, because you'll put divots into them, and then you're gonna be lapping them way more than you want to. Just very gently. So yeah, like I said, right now I'm not going to be hyper-focusing on trying to build the whole crazy burr up again like we did before that you can see. Right now, I'm mostly focusing on removing the old scratch pattern as much as I can and just making this whole edge a little bit softer. Let's look. Oh, I almost just cut myself. Oh yeah, this is a honey. Alright, I'm always terrible at this, so let's see if we can get that fresh edge on film. Can you guys see the new edge? It's got a little bit of glimmer. We're working on removing that very toothy 600 grit scratch pattern, and we're just really dialing this in. I want it to be nice and smooth. Okay? Just polishing and taking it nice and easy. Yeah, this looks great. So the entire scratch pattern from the 600 grit is gone now, okay? Which tells me that I can move on to my other side. See how this is nice and even? That's perfect. So now we're going to do our other side. And there is a burr, guys. It's just not anything crazy. I'm not worried about breaking it off, so I'm not going to do the stropping right now. We're just going to, start right in on this other side. I was worried earlier about breaking the burr off because it was so large. This is a very fine, tiny burr, and I think it's just going to gently remove itself with this fine honing, so we're just going to get right into it on this other side. And I love using these traditional Naniwa stones on these old knives, like these traditional knives, because I just feel that the feedback is really high quality. So with some of the new steels coming out, like the new super steels, even I would go as far as to say that certain cryo-treated, like double cryo-treated S45, like from Spartan Harzy, those even I have trouble getting feedback with on these stones because they're almost too hard. So it's just a nice experience to just kind of throw an older carbon steel on these stones. Nothing crazy, no super steels, and you can actually feel your progress and how effective you're being. Because some of those newer steels are just tricky to bond with and tricky to actually feel on the stone. But these give really good feedback. Like, you can feel with this 1000 grit Naniwa if you mess up. You can feel immediately and you're going to be like, uh-oh, I made a mistake. they have great feedback in my opinion. Alright, so this is also looking really good. Just gonna do a few more strokes, but where are we here? Where in the world? I can't get the light on this side for some reason. Oh, maybe you can see a little bit of the polish. Anyway, it's even and nice and straight, which we like. So I'm just gonna do a few more polishing passes and just get this sucker looking nice and pretty. And then we'll do some back and forth, and then that's it. Yeah, this looks great. Alright, we're going to do a few back and forth passes. And then we should be done with this knife 100%. And I will make a video, guys, on how to reprofile these as well, because like I said, they typically come with uneven edge bevels, and this one definitely did, and I followed it, and I think you'll see when I'm done, like, how uneven it was, but you can easily fix that. That's just going to be a whole different video, because I need a different stone setup. I'm going to have to use probably my 325 DMT stone to start with to reprofile. The 600 grit just isn't, like, in my opinion, the best reprofiling stone. It's not gritty enough. So I will reprofile this at some point, or one of my sod busters, and show you how to do that. We'll just have to use a few extra stones to do it correctly. But you can absolutely fix the bevels on these and fix the tips and stuff. Like, even earlier when I was trying to fix that tip a little bit, it would have just taken less time and been easier on my 325. Alright, I'm going to wipe this off and let's see if it goes through that paper a little easier now that we've honed that edge in, okay? So the same paper as we had before, magazine paper. Hold on, let me pick you guys up for a little bit. Try to do this. Yeah, that might be easier. Okay. Let's see if it goes through with a little less resistance this time. Ooh, we're catching on something there, but there we go. Yeah, so it's definitely going through a little bit easier. It feels like back here, near the heel, there's just like the tiniest little bit of a micro burr, which makes sense because there's no choil, there's no sharpening choil on this, so it's hard to kind of hit that spot. I'm just going to, like, very quickly try to knock that off, and then flip this. That's why I like sharpening choils. It just makes sharpening easier. Alright, let's see if we can try to get a little bit of a better result. Okay, there we go. Yeah, I was catching on that area right there when I was first doing it. Okay, so this is definitely good to go, sharp. Is it the best edge? Of course it's not. You know, this is a very crude working edge with 2 stones, and it's definitely sharp. It will do everything you need it to do, but it's not, you know, this is not like Neves knives, Triple B handmade, Cedric and Ada type shit here. This is very mediocre in comparison to them, but it's sharp. It has the factory edge removed. This is going to perform better than it did before. It still has its tooth, which is what we want. It's, I'm always trying to hide my frickin' address, and I suck at it. Chrome Vanadium is very toothy, and I want to keep that. That's why we only went up to 1,000 grit with that Naniwa. But, yeah, this is toothy. More refined than it was before, but toothy. Okay, so that is how you can remove the factory edge from your traditional case knife in chrome vanadium steel using 2 stones. And come on, this thing never focuses. And it's toothy and ready to go. And that's all you really need if you're looking for a very quick and easy edge. These are great to practice on too if you're learning how to sharpen, guys. Because like I said, the feedback that you get from these is really nice. Between the chrome vanadium steel and the stones, like, this is a great way to not spend a bunch of money and learn how to sharpen your knife. Okay? And like I said, I will make a more in-depth video on how to reprofile these and make the edge bevels even. I will also do a more in-depth video on how to, like, get a better edge than this. Like a more refined edge that isn't as toothy and will move through the paper even better. But this is really just like a food prep knife, so since we're already 40 minutes in, I figured this is probably good for today. So I will see you guys on the next video. Go use your shit. I will see you so soon. Practice sharpening your knives. Practice freehand sharpening. I love you guys so much. I will see you on the next video. Peace.